Why should I talk? Okay.
Um, Welcome to
Welcome
Linux
to.
Saloon, where Nate has a oh, what is it? Nate has a very what? Start me over.
Angenommen.
Why should I talk? Okay.
Um, welcome to Linux. Oh, hold on, I have to mute myself. Welcome to Linux Saloon, where we talk about open source tech and Linux. Your host Nate. Well, Plasma's going crazy right now, so Bluetooth keeps crash. The Bluetooth stack keeps crashing
Yeah, I think it's
his
working.
Zoom, and yeah. And and Nate also has a very obsession with OpenSUSE. Welcome to the show. There you go. That was backwards, but
This work. How about now? Is it working? No? Okay, it's sort of working.
oh,
I think. Can you hear me now?
uh-oh.
Let's see if somebody.
Has a. Hold on, you're behind.
I just don't hear music though.
Welcome to the show.
Oh, I turned the music off.
That was backwards, but
Voice is good.
yeah, I'm behind.
How about now? Is it
There
working?
we go. I hear you now.
Okay, it's sort of working.
All right, so I have
I
it
think so.
patched like all kinds of crazy, but it's working now. So okay, well I guess we'll kick it off now. All right, welcome to Linux Saloon, a place discuss
Disgusting.
tech, open source, or Linux is always on tap. Each show will have a talk about a Linux project, such as the Linux distribution, desktop environment, or application. We also chat about the news and any variety of topics from the community. Anything that's Linux tech and open source related is on the table for discussion. I'm Nate, a Linux fitness and vintage tech enthusiast with an almost unhealthy obsession with the OpenSUSE project. And with me today, I got a fantastic bundle of joy of people. I've got Chris, Dr. Linux, Eris, Jinda, White Chocolate, and Allie. How is everybody?
Excellent.
Not good.
What do you mean not good?
Well,
Well, good to hear.
we had a really bad storm the other day,
Okay.
and
Scaffolding maybe.
I went out to pick up limbs, big old logs. I mean, I was having to drag them, and I somehow got into either poison oak or ivy or something. And
Yeah.
it's all over my
Oh,
neck.
yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
my goodness.
Oh yeah, I had to go to the doctor today and get a shot and all that. So
Fantastic. Man, that's awful.
yeah, and a bunch of peels and creams, and they think it's poison ivy is what I got into. And I thought that stuff died in the winter, but it don't. That stuff that breaks everybody out, it stays active year round.
Yeah, it's the oil
Wow.
that comes off of that. Yeah, it doesn't
Yeah, the
die.
oil.
Yep.
It doesn't die in the winter. Nope.
Well, I'm sorry,
So
dude.
yeah,
That's terrible.
yeah, and I've itched for like the last 2 days. It's been bad, but thank you.
What can you do?
hmm
Well, when you're not scratching yourself, be sure to do the straw poll if you have not done so already. What is the first operating system you installed in on hardware? So
Ooh.
yeah, this will be a good one. So on the docket for today, we got our news flight night. Do our little housekeeping. What's on the docket for next week. Do our last call, and that straw poll be in there. But right before the straw poll, what have you been doing in Linux and tech? I was going to pre-show everything with you, but then Zoom crashed on me, and getting it back started caused all kinds of craziness. So here we are. And have we got anything they want to talk about that they did this week? Allie, I don't know. You said you were playing. Oh, Jinda.
Yeah. I decided to try Z swap instead of Z RAM.
Okay.
Does anybody have any clue what I'm referring to?
Yes. I've heard of it. It's
Yes.
So I know ZRAM is basically uses compressed. It compresses an area of your RAM, it stores it in RAM but in a compressed state. That's my understanding. I could be wrong.
Yeah, and I was trying to learn the differences between the two, and I got confused and decided I don't care. I'm just going to try both of them and see which one I like better.
So is Z-Swap using RAM then, a compressed area of RAM, or is it using something else? I don't know anything about Z-Swap.
Yes, it is. Yeah, Z-Swap is what the practical difference is I was trying to, to understand it. To me, it was complicated. You know what I mean? I don't know how else to explain it. To me, it was complicated. It was one's a block device and one's not. And then I was like, okay, you're losing me right there. You know what I mean? As soon as they started getting technical, I started getting lost. And I just said, okay, I'm going to try Z-Swap instead of Z-RAM.
Okay.
I have a 2 meg laptop, and it did improve it. It really did.
Really?
It seems to be snapper and quicker. I was trying it on my Raspberry Pi, which I'm not happy with the Raspberry Pi OS. They changed over to Wayland, and they put a bunch of extra, what does they call it? Visual enhancements, which to me take power, which the Raspberry Pi doesn't have.
Right. Well, that's so I too have played with the new Raspberry Pi OS, and I did notice the Wayland thing because I was using a bunch of like XDo tool and a bunch of other like X-based tools to do some automations, and those didn't work obviously. And then I was like, oh my gosh, it's Wayland. So then it's very easy to switch over to X, though, not a big deal.
Right.
And yeah. But that's interesting. And so are you then not happy with the Wayland then on the Raspberry Pi? Is that what you're kind of saying? Or wasn't the Wayland something else?
It's not that I'm unhappy with it. It's just the fact that the point of adding visual add-ons to a very low-end PC with 4 gigs of RAM that doesn't have a lot of video, to me, seemed kind of silly. You know what I mean?
Yep.
I'm not unhappy with it. It just, I mean, you can put a trailer on a Yugo. It doesn't mean you can. And just because you can do it doesn't mean it's worth anything, because you can't put anything to haul on it because it's not going to work. So
a few bags of feathers might be all right.
Yeah, right. Yeah, a whole bunch of feathers and yeah.
Not too many.
What do you mean by visual effects?
What? Oh, when you alt-tab switching, they added that more graphical one that I don't know how to explain
so
it.
Like thumbnails?
Raspberry Pi with some eye candy. This is great.
Yeah. That was one of the visual effects I noticed they added. They added a couple other ones that were minor. I'm sure it's fine with the Raspberry Pi 5, but unfortunately to me, the Raspberry Pi 5 priced themselves out of the market. What's that?
So basically what Jenda's saying is it's like Russian roulette and driving a Ford Pinto across the country. Basically, kinda.
Well, yeah, but you can also put a real fancy paint job on that Ford Pinto. It would be pretty pointless.
Right.
And to me, this was pointless also, because it just I don't see any added benefit to it to make the operating system quicker.
Right.
But once again, the Raspberry Pi 5 is out now, and you're looking at, like, for a Raspberry Pi kit on Amazon, it's like $170. And to me, you can get a mini, what do they call it, a mini PC by a name brand company, so quote, a name brand enough, for less money, and it would be more powerful.
So I'm guessing the Pis are kind of like this carbon. You can't add more memory to it.
Correct.
Oh, it's soldered in. Ooh.
Yep.
Yeah.
Ooh.
It's a
They're
single
like
board
phones,
computer.
basically.
Yeah.
Do what?
They're like phones. Like
Darren said his mic's not working, so he's restarting.
Who's restarting? Not me.
White
Terrence,
chocolate, I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, somebody is.
Terrence's mic's not working, so he's restarting, he said.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
It happens.
Yep, it's like the phone.
Well, I think you have to understand, like, the Raspberry Pi is like a. It's not a general purpose computer necessarily. It's more like it's
a phone with the ports.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
it's a machine
basically.
with a focused set of tasks. You can do general computing on a phone, on a phone. Yeah, you can on a Raspberry Pi. That is possible.
Mm-hmm.
It's just probably not going to be the best experience, but it's not going to be. It's not like it's going to be awful. It's just not going to be the best. So
You would have to run like LX Qt or XFCE on it, probably with 4 gigs of RAM.
Mm-hmm.
It
Yeah.
runs LXDE, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
But-
it runs LXD.
But it has a
Ah.
wailing now and I guess fancy effects.
Well, not fancy, but just enough to annoy me going, why is this thing sluggish when I'm trying to do something? And then I alt-tab switch and go, oh, okay. They
Good old-
added fancy stuff to it to slow it down and honk my hooter.
Good old LXDE.
Yeah, so the I actually have really good experience with plasma on the Pi as well. Turn off all the effects
Okay.
basically, you know, it's been very pretty good.
Huh.
Because plasma's pretty light ultimately, and then
Once you
Mhm.
take stuff out, yeah, it is.
you take off all the superfluous bits that you don't need. You don't need shut off all the database helper stuff.
Mhm.
And it's really
Explosions. The
Baloo.
that if you want, yeah, you can do that too.
Yeah.
It's not too bad. But the with some of the graphical components are making it into the kernel now. So the experience on the Pi with non-Raspberry Pi OS distributions should be better here in the very near future. So there is that to look forward to as well.
Right.
So
I've booted
Sean-
up MX Linux now. I mean,
Oh.
I
Oh.
have this thing that looks like it has a list of icons. It looks like five drawers. Looks like a drawer set, like those drawers, office drawers that has like a lot of paperwork folders. So it looks
That
like
might be XFCE, maybe?
Yeah, MX is XFCE by default.
Yeah.
That's what I chose.
Perfect. And how do you like it so far? It's obviously different. You're probably feels a little foreign to you, I'm guessing.
I haven't navigated it yet at all, really.
Okay.
But it looks pretty cool. I would like it so that I don't have a full screen, but I have a full screen now, and I guess one adjustment. Well, I would say adjustment like I'm a designer of it, but it would be cooler if this bin, this thing that looks like a drawer set, is a little
Mhm.
smaller, so you can see like the clock on the side. It like blocks the view for the full clock. So I guess you'd have to zoom or narrow the window to see the full clock.
Are you talking about the toolbar on the side? Being on the side, you can
it says
change
8.
that.
Yeah.
You
You could change the size of it.
You can
Okay.
change
Oh,
it.
yeah.
Yeah, you
You
can
can
change
change it.
everything about it. Yeah, you don't have to be a designer.
You can move it. Yeah.
If you go to the welcome screen, there's a button there for configure your panel.
Okay.
Yeah, you can move it top to the
I do
bottom.
I definitely like the start menu. Well, it's not a start menu, but I like this. I don't know what to call it.
You can call it start
The
menu.
start menu, yeah.
Yeah, start
I
menu.
like a better word.
So Sean
Also-
from YouTube, I just wanted to point out that he said that the
It's
big
subtrade.
feature of the Pi is that you have addressable GPI opens to build
Right.
other things on the Linux base. So
That's
Right.
true.
it is good to point that out.
Yeah.
And I was going to also throw in cinnamon might be good for Allie coming from Windows. I don't know.
Yeah,
Which
this
you
thing
can-
it's similar. It looks similar to the thing that I have on my other computer. Like it has like a thing where it has like OneNote like as an icon on the side. It looks like that on the side on this panel here. That's what it reminds me of.
Right?
Yeah, it's a from an era of the netbook is where MX Linux kind of became its thing. So it's always had the bar, I think, on the left side of the screen.
Oh,
That's
that's
what they
why.
just chose to do. Yeah.
The
Yeah.
most efficient use of space, basically, because of wide screen.
Yeah, I'm using it in my Windows Edge, so it has like a one on the right side too. It looks pretty cool.
Oh, there we go. Tweak panel. Okay, yeah. Place it at the bottom, the top. Except that didn't do nothing for me. Huh.
There's an apply button you have to push. If you go into tweak in MX Linux, you have to hit apply. It'll say vertical, left, right, and then on the bottom it says apply. I always forget to press it.
Oh.
I always prefer.
Oh, there it is. Okay, it's in the
Yeah,
middle
yeah.
of the screen. I
Yeah,
hit
yeah, yeah.
close.
Yeah, I know. I did it too. I mean, I get why they did it that way, but I miss it every
Right.
time.
make you look directly in the middle.
Yeah, you'd think it would work. You think that's the most obvious place to put it, but for me, evidently not.
And you would think just hitting close would do it. Just move it,
Right.
Right.
But that, because it's kind of a pain in the butt to move that panel left and right, horizontal and vertical. So they made this little cheat sheet.
Ah.
Why did they have the icon so large for the distros? Like it seems like it's. Well, I guess it's for preference thing. But I guess people that I always like my icon small on every computer I use.
Yeah, you can change the size of it. That's no problem at all. It's all customizable. Yep.
Right click, go to desktop settings, icons, and there we go. Icon size.
I meant within distro C, like when you're choosing the distro to the icons are kind of large, but they're different preference. Yeah.
Let's see what happens when I run it.
I don't know why they did it that way. I guess just so you see that you're clicking on Sousa or you're clicking on Arch or you're clicking on...
Yeah, I tried to zoom in further to see if I can make it smaller, but it can't get past a certain size.
Where was that at?
So is this your first time installing an operating system?
I haven't installed one yet. I'm still going through these list of...
You're doing like a live... the
preview thing.
Yeah, okay, gotcha. The distro, what was it called? Distro
C.
Yep.
Distro C.
Yep.
Now, I just did Control minus in Vivaldi, and it made them smaller. Way smaller.
Well, very cool.
Yeah, I guess it's able to do that when you when I use my mouse to kind of pinch in, it doesn't do it. I guess it works with the Control minus stuff.
What is CentOS? I've never heard of that.
It's it's a development branch for Red Hat.
Red Hat.
Used to be
it doesn't exist anymore either.
Basically, it's like Sousa. See, I want to say Seuss so bad.
Yeah.
It's a rolling release. Oh, so it's kind of like Fedora then.
Sort of.
Yeah, I forget. It was the old version. I think it was like, what was it? The old version of Fedora. It was the more stable version of Fedora, basically, and they just called it CentOS.
Well,
I think that's what it was.
Used to be
back when it was Fedora Core.
Yeah.
Which I want to say CentOS is now Alma, I think.
No. Well, there's
no. That is incorrect. So CentOS basically was a rebuild of Red Hat. Okay, the commercial Red Hat, and then you can get like rebuild, but without any kind of support. Because of course, if you buy Red Hat, you're gonna get commercial support.
Right.
And then Red Hat bought CentOS and made it part of the family, but then they changed their mind and they created CentOS Stream, which is supposed to be the upstream for Red Hat.
Right.
It's like Grumpy says here on YouTube chat. It's Fedora, then CentOS Stream, and then Red Hat. That's the way the family goes for that.
Right. Okay. Oh, okay.
Fedora is the most upstream point.
It's the feeder.
Yeah.
Yep. Very cool. Well, I think we should probably get to the straw poll. So, Eris. How did that straw poll shake out? I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
Oh, that's fine. So before I forget, the credit for this poll goes to username undefined. He came up with this poll, the idea of it. Some of the replies that I got were, let's see, other Amiga OS, and then I got other. I think the first standalone OS that I installed was
Geos
on the Commodore 64.
Mm-hmm.
This space incredibly slow, as I recall, and never really did end up using it much. Just goes to show you that the command line rules for efficiency.
Whoever said that, I salute you.
And then somebody else said, as the results are coming in, I think we are seeing the effect of our average age. I would think that if you were born after 1990, you would probably miss the window where OS software was something people generally touched. Other than professionals, the small group of custom PC builders and Linux BSD, etc. explorers would be the only ones in would be the only ones doing it in the early 21st century. And somebody else said, I really don't know if I installed Windows or Linux first. I know that Windows 98 came up on my first PC. I also know that I installed some ancient Red Hat distribution on it and ended up reinstalling Windows later. I'm not sure if I ever had reinstalled Windows on that PC before installing Linux. And as far as the results, the number one answer for what was the first operating system you installed in hardware was DOS with 36%, followed
Wow.
by
Nice.
followed by Windows with 27%, and then comes Linux with 14%. Other got 14% as well,
Can install
and
that. Oh, sorry.
9% for CPM.
Hmm.
Nobody picked Android variant, FreeBSD, Mac OS, NetBSD, OpenBSD, Solaris. And I have never installed an operating system. And oddly enough, nobody picked Tux Penguin this time.
Yeah, poor Tux Penguin. Usually he gets at least one vote.
Yep.
Now,
I didn't know you
I've
could install DOS.
what's that? Say that again.
I didn't know you could install DOS.
Yep.
DOS.
DOS.
DOS. Yeah.
Yeah, you could install it to the hard drive. It was, I mean, pretty simple to do. I never actually installed DOS though. I never.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, I installed Amiga OS Workbench. That was fun to do way back in the day.
I almost missed the OS work days, except for middle school. We had those old IBMs. You flipped the red switch in the front, and then it came up a blue IBM screen, and that's how we logged in with our student number and all that. Yeah.
That's cool. I never used OS2. I've never touched an OS2 system.
I think it was OS2 because she
been.
had to turn the server on first, and then it had to go through its stuff, and then we could turn on our computers at our station by flipping the red button in the front. Yeah.
Whole nother era.
But this was in the 90s, though. Early 90s. Like 97. Yeah. We were still using them old dinosaurs.
Yeah, I was using Apple IIs at school at that time.
Wow.
Apple IIe, 2GS, 2C. Those were fun.
Well, when I graduated high school in 2002, we were still using 98. Mm-hmm.
Some people.
The first one I ever used was 95, Windows 95. I vaguely remember.
Wow.
That makes me think. There's a really funny meme. Someone says, "Have you installed Windows 11 yet?" And I said, "No, I'm way past that. I'm on Windows 95."
Dang.
1995.
Yeah, 1995.
Yeah, good times.
Mm-hmm. My first personal at home would have been 98 for me. 95 or 98 on a Packard Bell.
Gotcha. Now, let me ask a question here. So I was just, noodling this around, thinking about it. The people who used computers in the 80s and 90s, like, because they wanted to, not because they had to in school, do you think that's a fairly small section of people, I would say, very small, like, slice? Would you say that's pretty accurate? Computer people in that time?
Yeah.
So do you think that maybe that percentage of people really hasn't grown or changed much today, and that's the same essentially slice of people that are using Linux? Like people who are enthusiastic. I mean, not entirely, not exclusively, but those that would on a Saturday night at 8 p.m. Eastern join a Linux Saloon to talk about Linux nonsense.
Anna agrees with you.
And Anna Rita says, yes, Nate. So she agrees.
I mean, we didn't have internet at home until like 2001. I just used WordPad mostly and played games on it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, installed them with that little round thing we used to have back then called a CD. Yeah.
I used to play
Yeah.
Overkill. That game. It was a space. It's like a space game. Like
Yeah.
it looks like almost like Pac-Man.
Yeah.
Right.
In the graphics, and I just remember that. That's the first ever computer I used. Yeah.
That sounds
And I
fun.
remember pinball on XP. Oh, I love that space pinball.
Oh,
Yeah,
that was
that's
fun.
Yes.
So,
Oh yeah, solitaire.
CCJ says buying a computer back in those days was an investment well north of $1,000. So yeah, that was they were expensive.
CCJ also said we'd be on CompuServe right now griping at each other. Right.
Oh right,
Yeah.
yeah.
You see the other people chatting.
Uh-huh.
Welcome to CompuServe.
Where do you
have
see the other people
mail.
chatting?
You know,
Is there a separate chat? I'm missing out.
No,
It's the YouTube chat. So if you go to the live
there's
stream
YouTube chat.
and just look at the chat there.
Oh yeah, I forgot. He did tell me that there's YouTube stream as well.
Mhm.
Uh-huh.
So CCJ said was using 3.1 when I graduated. So
wow.
I want to say
Same here.
when I first joined the U.S. Army, I want to say that there were still systems running 3.1 in the early 2000s. I want to say that
Oh my God.
and actually
Wow.
just even, and I'm retired now, but just a couple of years ago, the machine that controlled the firing line, that with the targets that pop up, that was a Windows XP machine. So
I hear the military still uses XP somewhat.
I'm sure. I
Mhm.
was using it well into oh golly, I think 2011. I want to say.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Dang.
So it's barely vintage to me. So
Blue toolbar and all. The Fisher Price toolbar.
it was friendly, wasn't it? So
Mm-hmm.
Steven Anderson says 40 years ago I would have been a DOS guy. Yeah. I can see
Wow. Except I always switched mine to classic. I didn't like the Fisher Price blue and green. Yeah.
that. Oh, and Steven.
So how many of us? How do I get the YouTube chat?
So if you go to
I'll put the link in the.
yeah, thank you,
Okay,
Aaron.
thanks.
Yeah. Give him the link.
So Steve Anderson tells us his age. He was class of '79. So
Ooh.
I consider myself an old guy, and I wasn't born yet. So
I wouldn't even thought of yet in 79.
I'm staying quiet.
yeah. So David Martin says the cost was more like talking about the cost of computers in the '80s and probably '80s. I'm guessing. Says the cost is more like $2,000 and $1980. So yeah, it's true. Unless you bought a Commodore 64 and you get it for like $399, or is that
and had the hard drives that were like this and weighed about 50 pounds back then.
Yeah, well, that was like the IBM. So she didn't have a hard drive on a Commodore 64.
Yeah. Or the floppy drives to burn it to. I mean, save it to.
So Grumpy Joe says Solaris 10 HP UX 10.20, and he was running CDE. So that's pretty cool. I used HP Unix back in about 20-ish years ago. Ooh, Anna Rita coming in with, I was class of 97.
Oh, we're close then.
Yeah.
Wow.
Ooh,
Anna's just a few years older than me.
Grumpy was class of 89.
Oh, wow. I had just started school.
Do you guys use those old-fashioned camcorders? Camcorders that are not used now, but I feel like people. I don't know.
The shoulder button?
The one you had to carry your
area
shoulder.
of my youth that I remember that. I just remember the only other technological thing was the camcorder. And they used to be like some are bulky for VCR, small VCR, not VCR,
Yeah,
tapes,
yeah,
but they had the magnetic
VCR
tape.
tape. Uh-huh. VCR
miniature.
tape.
So I never had one of those with the little tapes. I had the one with the full-size VCR tapes that was a pretty heavy thing on you had on your shoulder. That was a good time back in the day.
And didn't they eventually come out with some that saved to floppy? I think you put a floppy 3.5.
Yeah, I think just for
floppy.
pictures though. I don't know if so much for video.
Oh, not for video.
The first digital cameras had a floppy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then remember the click things? They're like little discs. I can't remember exactly what they were, but they sound like LGR. They had, I think it was LGR. Was it LGR? Might have been.
What click things?
They're called clicks, I think. They're a little basically, I think they're like optical discs, or maybe the magnetic. I don't know. They're a small, strange. I might be getting the name wrong too, so there's that. That's a possibility. But yeah, that's good stuff right there. I like.
And zip drives.
Yes, zip drives. Those are always fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, iOmega. And then,
Yep.
basically, they got killed by the Flash media, essentially.
I heard they were crap anyway because they corrupted very easily. The discs did.
I think they were okay. The problem was like a lot of the drives would die was the issue.
Yeah, it was the drive. You're right. The drives died prematurely.
Mm-hmm. But I guess maybe it
Yeah.
was an easy fix. I don't know. I don't recall. I remember I did have a zip disk for school, college. So when I did like my CAD work, we had to save it to a zip disk.
You guys call it
Wow.
zip drive? You don't call it USB stick?
It's a separate.
No, it's a totally different system.
Yeah.
It's a separate thing, completely separate.
Yeah.
What is it? What is the difference?
It's an older form of storage. It's called zip drive. It looked like a thick floppy, right?
Yep. Look
Yep.
like a floppy, like a 3.5-inch floppy disk.
Mm-hmm.
I got one
And-
kicking around here somewhere.
And it had a special,
It looks
like,
like a cassette player.
Oh, that's something
No.
else.
Is that the blue one?
That'd be the Jazz drive, I think, or maybe Jag.
Yeah.
zip looks like a 3.5-inch floppy drive, kind of, sort of. And you put that big, thick disc into the zip drive.
Okay.
I think most
Mhm.
people might know it as a floppy disk.
Yeah, floppy.
I do see it now.
Okay,
I
that's-
pulled it
yeah.
up on eBay. Yeah. It's cool. It looks interesting.
I think it'd be fun to get one,
I don't
just to
even-
have one.
I don't even think they make them no more, do they? I was just about to say that.
I got one kicking around somewhere. I just have to find it.
I don't think zip
Yep.
exists.
You can get them used, but not gonna get anything new.
Oh,
I'm sure there's enough old stock out there, new old stock that you could probably get a hold of. I don't know what condition it's going to be in, but
right. Or how long it's going to last.
right.
Or it goes kaboom like the Pinto. Yep.
You know,
Because Anna said something about the click of death on the. No, sorry, it was Sean.
Yep.
Said the click of
Yep.
death on the zip drives.
right.
Mm-hmm.
That is correct.
Yeah.
Yuppers. Well, very cool.
Oh, and Steve said VHS C is what y'all used back then.
The compact one. Yep.
Yeah.
There was VHS C. There was SVHS,
Could have been. Yeah.
and there was like another
Was
one. I
that
think.
that for S for secure, like SFTP?
I think it's for super.
Yeah, I know.
I don't know.
Oh, I've never seen those before. The VHS C.
hmm
It's like tiny. Yeah. I just remember the big ones you used to put, the big VHS tapes you would put in them in the camcorders, and slap that door shut, hit record.
Yeah, I was watching a video on like how they produce the IMAX films. Their like resolutions are so high, like compared to the normal graphics card display resolutions. Like to create the IMAX, not IMAX, but just those films that they have on the theater screen. That's pretty cool. Like it was a cool video I was watching. I forget what thing it was on, but it's pretty interesting.
Hmm.
The first computer I used that actually had a floppy drive was 8-inch.
Never
Ooh.
even touched one of those either. I'd like to.
I
though.
did. I got to touch an 8-inch floppy drive, man.
Yeah. Every time I watch war games, I think, man, that's such a cool drive.
Yeah, it's like this big.
Like
You had to
8
use
inches.
2 hands because you would bend it.
Right.
Oh my God, they're massive.
Oh, I've used those before.
Not
You
5 and a
probably
quarter.
use the 5 1/4. They made an 8-inch one originally.
In last week's show, I said something about the IBM that we had with the yellow text, the amber text.
Oh
And
yeah.
And I want to say it took maybe the 5.5, or it might have been the 8. I don't remember. It was big.
This is the
There's
5.
the 5.
The 5 and
Okay, it
5
was
and
the
a quarter
5.
here.
Yeah,
These are the.
I think it was
What are they
that.
called? These mini discs. What are they called?
Not mini disc.
Okay.
Good
I'm
time.
just seeing the chat for the first time. Yeah.
Welcome.
And YouTube, I mean, yeah.
You've got mail. No, I'm just kidding.
Willkommen. Du hast Briefen.
9.
Well, very cool. All right, well, let's probably get onto the news flight. So, there's some exciting, controversial things out there that I think we should probably hit. So, KDE clarifies risk on installing global themes in Plasma 6. So, what to do instead. So, the KDE store will start making some changes. Meanwhile, you need to keep an eye out for what you install. So, just a few days back, an OpenSUSE user had a rude awakening when they installed a global theme on the KDE Plasma equipped system from the KDE store. The theme called Gray Layout managed to erase all their data completely from the user-mounted drives on the system. It did so by executing the dreaded rm-rf command, which deleted everything that came in its path. Now, I want to pause reading this and say, that is dirty. You don't be part of an open source community and just kick over people's sandcastles. That's just dirty. So as you can see below, Reddit user Jeanson Vars posted their predicament on the OpenSUSE subreddit, where many sympathize with the situation, and some calling for the KDE store to be completely remade from scratch. Which, by the way, it's actually part of. I actually do put stuff on the KDE store, or have put stuff on there. Stuff's still there, and it's the same basic. It's a freedesktop.org thing, actually. I believe is what it is. So it's GNOME puts their stuff there as well, but yeah, they probably need to be curated, I guess. So another Reddit user also suggested them to make posts on the KDE subreddit to gain some traction there, and that it did. The post got the attention of the KDE Plasma developers, with Nate Graham stating that the theme in question had been removed from the store. All that commotion begged the following question: global themes on Plasma, are they a double-edged sword? If the situation mentioned above is any indication, then yes. Installing global themes from KDE Store on Plasma can be a tricky situation if you were to install something malicious or inherently broken by nature. So writing about the issue, David Edmondson from KDE pointed out that this was caused due to mistake in some shell parsing and not something that was done deliberately by the theme publisher. Well, that doesn't seem right. However, the discussion around this got them thinking. Allowing users to download and install stuff like themes, applets, scripts, etc. is a good thing to have, and that nothing on KDE Store happens without explicit user interaction. As a result, they have now realized that using the term like global themes and Plasma applets doesn't necessarily signal that a piece of software may be unsafe. Even though the store has the following disclaimer, I'm not convinced that it is enough. While the themes code may not have had malicious intent to begin with, some other themes can have malicious intent, and without review, it is indeed a dangerous situation to think of. So now it's KDE's move. Fortunately, KDE is not going to sit idly by. David mentioned that in the short term, they intended to properly communicate the security implications of extension users download for their Plasma desktops. In the long term, they plan to separate the safe content from the unsafe content, while also integrating curation and auditing into the store with improved sandbox support. He also adds that if you install content from the store, I would advise checking it locally or looking for reviews from trusted sources. I agree with David. Users should always check reviews of anything they get from the KDE store, or even from any other software store for that matter. They could check for reviews on the store itself, or from reliable sources such as Reddit. Is that a reliable source, Reddit? I don't know. You never know what kind of harm-causing software you may be adding to your Linux system if you are not careful. On that note, if you're looking for Plasma themes, you could refer to our list of gorgeous KDE Plasma themes that was recommended. This time, be cautious about everything. So there is a beautiful theme called OpenSUSE Breeze Dark. Not a global theme, but like a Plasma style and a Plasma color scheme made by this guy, Cubicle Nate. Works well, nothing malicious about that whatsoever. So I highly recommend it. So what do you think? You know, the having malicious themes, that seems like really, I don't know. It's like somebody broke into my house.
When I opened the, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say when I opened the what was the one that you referred to me, Terrence? The one that he referred to me. It starts with M.
MX Linux.
Yeah, MS Linux. That one.
MX.
I guess it's a pop up.
Yeah, MX.
It showed up. It looks
Linux.
like a thing that says you can Google Map. It looked like that's what popped up. It was really huge. It's not like a regular size. I thought at first is that the interface loading screen? I was confused for a bit, but yeah. So that's what that's where my mind goes with that.
Gotcha. Are you still playing with it in the distro C?
Yeah, I just opened the OpenSUSE, but I don't know which version to choose. I'm looking at 6.
I'm a fan of Tumbleweed. I don't know if they have the
Okay, cool.
Plasma 6 in there yet.
No, it's still 5.27. That's what me and Jenda were talking about.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Mm-hmm. From December.
Now I'm picking up what you're letting down.
I'm just curious, in terms of like browsing for when you're using these OSs, are they called OSs as well?
Sure.
These,
I mean, Linux,
what are you typically? Well, not typically, but what are you guys using? What are your programs? Or what are your go-tos?
Your
applications that you mostly use on and what did they do?
There's distro, which is like OpenSUSE, Fedora, Ubuntu, Mint, and then you've got desktop environments, which is XFCE, GNOME, Plasma, Mate, LXQT, Sway, and so on. So it's two different things: the distro, and then you've got the desktop environment. And everybody runs different stuff. So, but
I generally use Firefox as my primary go-to. Secondarily, I'll use Chromium, but I don't use Chrome. Then also for work.
Oh, I love Chromium, the blue one. I like that one.
Yeah,
the blue and yellow ones. I've tried Chromium before. I like it.
And then
ungoogled Chromium.
It just looks a little more customized.
Yeah. And then I also use Edge for everything work, Microsoft Edge. So there's that. It's just easy because it's a Microsoft shop. It's just a lot easier to keep all the Microsoft stuff in the Microsoft bucket,
right?
You know, and then
oh no, Microsoft
ban, yeah.
I don't like their store much.
No, I have my irritations with that for sure. But before I slip too far away, so what do you think about the global themes? Does anybody here install global themes in Plasma, or is it just me? Actually, no, I don't. I just install my theme. So I can't say.
I never understood the purpose of them, honestly, because it seems like it's such a the design, the person who makes it point of view. Like why would I want everything to look like the way they did it? Like I maybe want to get the Plasma theme, because maybe I want to grab that, but I probably don't want their wallpaper, and I don't want like everything else. Like I never understood the purpose of the global themes.
I think it's
overall.
If you want to probably, let's say you have a fleet of machines, you want to just induce a specific look, you can have it trigger that, I suppose.
Now, global is what? Like
so
KDElook.org, MateLook.org.
Yeah, and it's basic. It just changes it so you can have like everything kind of bundled together there. So if you want to have like where you want your panels, how you want like the wallpaper, if you so choose, your application icon, what kind of start menu you want, you can actually set all that stuff with a global theme. So yes, it could. I can see how it could be used maliciously. But if you're going to do it maliciously, you're just a bad person.
That's true.
Yeah. So yeah, I think maybe they need to rethink the global theme portion of it. I guess if that's going to be if that's a problem. I was gonna put together a global theme for my look, but I don't know. I think I might rebase it on the current current breeze coloring first.
Like, if there was a way that I could create a global theme just by clicking a button, like all my settings, and just set that up, that would be great. But taking somebody else's global theme, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if I put one together, you could use mine. I'm just saying. So I did, like, on my Steam Deck, because it does run Plasma, I used my OpenSUSE theme on there just to make me feel better. So it has the, the OpenSUSE logo and the right color of green that I like. But yeah. Anyway, so I guess that's interesting. I think it's interesting to that it happened, and we'll see what happens from that. So some more Linuxy bad news, because we love bad Linux news, right? The more scam apps on the Canonical Snap Store. Did anybody hear about this? I think there was Brody. Has anyone listened to Brody? Brody? Is that his name? Yeah.
Brody.
He did a pretty good rant on it, and a very succinct rant as far as rants go. And so I'll just read this article from Gaming on Linux. It says, no, this isn't a joke. Sadly, Canonical once again have an issue with scam apps appearing on the Snap Store, which is becoming a repeating problem. I wrote about this before in February and again previously in October 2023. And here we go again. After this issue, Canonical seems to be slowly moving on the subject, with discussions being opened on the Discourse forum to chat about implementing more checks. So they might want to speed up the actual checking on app publishers. Alan Pope has a great blog post about this issue, talking about how another 10 scam crypto wallet apps appeared from DigiSafe 00000. They were all removed, but guess what? They're back again under a different publisher name, and this time it's CodeShield X0x000. So, yeah, there's I think just by the name, that'd be alarming enough in and of itself.
For me, the DistroC reminds me of OpenSea, that website with all those digital art stuff. That's what my mind went. It looks very fancy when you load up the page. The icons could be small, but it looks like that. It reminds me of that.
Never looked at OpenSea. So weirdly named publishers putting up 10 crypto wallet apps. If that was in proper human review, if there was a proper human review here, someone might have actually thought, hey, this is a bit odd. Maybe I should do a little digging first. Since they're on the Snap Store, they would show up in the Ubuntu software app, which is quite a problem. Alan Pope dives into one of the apps in a blog post, noting they create an account function obviously doesn't work, since they just want to log in with your current wallet details so they can poach it. As Pope says, it's trivially easy to publish scam applications like this in the Canonical Snap Store, and for them to go unnoticed. It seems it really is. So now, if you want to scam users on Ubuntu, just publish a snap of something. Really not a good look for Canonical on Ubuntu. Then you get moving on this repeating problem. So that is kind of concerning. I really do hope that they can fix that sooner rather than later. But has anybody installed any applications they think were scammy before?
Not in a long time.
I'd say not in Linux. I haven't.
Yeah, not Linux.
I think I have in Windows.
Yeah.
That was easy to do in Windows, but now it kind of comes to the question of those last two.
Definitely have, yes.
Yeah, with this article, with snaps, and then also with the global themes and KDE, kind of makes me think: are we now at the point where maybe Linux is not as secure as it once was?
Well, the
So-
architecture hasn't changed, so that's still secure. If somebody's stupid they'll tell you to install something that removes your hard drive.
So in Brody's video, he points out that FlatHub does have manual
Human.
inspection of
Yep.
of the code.
Volunteer checkers. Yep.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's good. Yeah, I think ultimately they need a human review. So apparently AI doesn't work. So
Yeah, because the way I understand it was stamps have a automated like check,
mhm.
and obviously it's not as thorough as probably it should be to cover everything.
yeah. So then
There was an update today to the story.
I see that. So it looks like from Linux IAC, the Snap Store now requires manual review of the apps. Excellent. So the Snap Store is a platform we just talked about, similar to FlatHub, but owned and managed by Canonical, the company behind Ubuntu. It's a centralized app store where Linux users can download and install various applications on their device. The platform is designed to make software installation easier and distro agnostic. Unfortunately, the Snap Store's reputation has recently been significantly damaged due to an influx of cryptocurrency scams. These scams are made possible because the Snap Store has a policy that allows new applications known as snaps to be uploaded without undergoing a review process. As long as this is the only request as long as the only request permissions considered to be relatively harmless. However, that will no longer be the case. The company is making significant changes to the Snap Store policy to stop scam apps from reaching users. Holly Hall, product lead at Canonical, shared a message about this. As an immediate measure, we have decided to change the Snap name registration flow. As a result, when you register a new Snap name, you will experience a different workflow where manual review is required. In other words, here's how things will go. First, you'll be asked to enter the name of your Snap app and a brief comment about what it does or what it is or what it's for. After you submit all of the needed details, your Snap will undergo a review process. The engineering teams at Canonical will check the information you provide to see if anything seems off. You might also contact the developer for more details. If everything checks out, the Snap app will be approved for use in the Snap Store. Plans are to process each request for adding new applications within 2 business days. In conclusion, with this move, Canonical did something similar to what FlatHub, their main competitor, did previously a month ago. Lastly, it's a good idea that the KD project follows suit, especially after the recent incident in which global theme upload to KD Store led to loss of user data. So, there we go. The answer there, human review.
Humans are still needed.
Well, I kind of sort of think that that without the human element, none of this matters. Like, what's the point? The
Do
machine.
you remember in War Games where they said, "Let me talk to the people who are holding the button to shoot the missiles or whatever, the rockets." Remember that? And they're like, "No, they're directly plugged into the computer."
Right. Right. Yeah, I think, I love technology, but I think technology should be there to service me, not the other way around. So, all right. So an unpatched vulnerability in Apple chips, and an Apple chip leaks secret encryption keys from Ars Technica. So it's an unpatched vulnerability in Apple chips, which leak the encryption keys. Fixing newly discovered side channel will likely take a major toll on performance. Oh no, not the M1. A newly discovered vulnerability baked into Apple's M series of chips allows attackers to extract secret keys from Macs when they perform widely used cryptographic operations. Academic researchers have revealed in a paper published Thursday. The flaw, a side channel allowing end-to-end key extractions when Apple chips run implementations of widely used cryptographic protocols. It can't be patched directly because it stems from the microarchitectural design of the silicon itself. Instead, it can only be mitigated by building defenses into third-party cryptographic software that could drastically degrade M series performance when executing cryptographic operations, particularly on the earlier M1 and M2 generations. The vulnerability can be exploited when the targeted cryptographic operation and the malicious application with normal user system privileges run on the same CPU cluster. Whoa. So that's crazy. So it can be run on the user system privileges. So beware of hardware optimizations. The threat resides in the chip's data memory dependent prefetcher, a hardware optimization that predicts the memory address of the data that's running code is likely to access in the near future, by loading the contents in the CPU cache before it actually is needed. The DPM, as the feature is abbreviated, reduces latency between the main memory and the CPU, a common bottleneck in modern computing. DPMs are a relatively new phenomenon found in the M-series chips and Intel 13th generation Raptor Lake microarchitecture, although older forms of prefetchers have been common for years. Security experts have long known the classical prefetchers open a side channel that malicious processes can probe to obtain secret key material from cryptographic operations. Vulnerability is the result of the prefetcher making predictions based on previous access patterns, which can create changes in the state that attackers can exploit to leak information. So in response, cryptographic engineers have devised a constant time programming, an approach that ensures that all operations take the same amount of time to complete, regardless of their operands, and does this by keeping code free of secret dependent memory accesses or structures.
So this is like hyper-threading. If you remember how hyper-threading was discovered to be a security vulnerability.
Yep.
And once the initial vulnerability was discovered, I don't know if you know this, but OpenBSD turned it off completely because they figured that there were going to be more flaws, which there were. And hyper-threading. So hyper-threading is it's a design for the chip in which it pretends to be like two chips in one. So it's sort of that it's more efficient and the way it like digests information. So it doesn't like wait. It tries to predict what you're gonna do. Like it says right here in the article, it's very similar. And this, like it says, it leaves you vulnerable to the information being leaked.
So I guess my question would be, how likely is this really going to be an issue?
It's got to be for an advanced person.
Yeah.
That knows how to, that's really looking to do that type of manipulation, exploitation.
Yeah. So I just, it seems like, I mean, is this really like, is this an actual concern, or is this one of those sort of, someone has to have access to like direct control of your system, or can this be really done remotely? I wonder.
See, and this might just be, I don't know if this is gonna be like a big problem, because the way Apple hardware is, it's all very similar and uses very, very similar chips. Now, I think that this might be a big problem if they were able to make this trivial to exploit, which probably it isn't at this point, because of everything that depends on the M chips.
Well, Adam Grubbs has chimed in because I know he's a big fan of his M3. I think he has. You know, big money, big money. He says this attack is similar to Spectre Meltdown. It requires physical, local access to exploit. So he says it's more of a concern if your machine is seized by a bad actor who wants your encrypted data. So I guess the answer is don't encrypt your data, and then you don't have to worry about it being unencrypted, right? Ha. Okay. Boom.
And if I remember, Spectre was the same way. It was supposed to be only local, and then they figured out how to do it through the browser.
Yeah, so I don't know. Well, I guess we'll see how this thing shakes out. I wouldn't be, if I had an M series Mac, I don't know that I'd really be worried at this point. I mean, 1 year, it's not a lot of machines yet. And then I think the exploitation process cannot be easy. Yeah. I don't know. I guess we'll see. So then I wonder, like with the prefetcher and the M series chips are, I mean, if Intel's using the same thing on the 13th generation Raptor Lake, you know, what are they doing differently? Or if nothing at all, or if it also is going to affect 13th generation Intel.
I think they announced that an upcoming chips for Intel will have hyperthreading completely turned off.
Really?
Yeah, because they're gonna have so many
I don't know
processors
what that is
that
now.
they're gonna have so many processors that is not gonna affect performance. Supposedly, I think they said.
Basically, you use the hard drive space, more of the not more of the RAM space.
It's
CPU.
the way
to
it's the way
process.
the CPU processes information.
Yeah, so it uses more storage space to process, right?
It has nothing to do with
Requesting
storage.
additional space.
It
Right.
has nothing to do with storage. It's the way the computer like organizes information that it takes in
Oh,
to
okay.
process.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't think I'd be worried about it yet. But I'm also an optimist. Or is that optometrist? I can't remember.
If you're an ophthalmologist, then you can be a doctor too.
Mm-hmm. So GNOME 46 is going to be released soon. So we've all been excited about Plasma 6. So now GNOME 46, a good 40 more than Plasma. Says that here's the best new features. So GNOME 46 is out on March 20th, which is past. And the update will be the centerpiece of April's Ubuntu 24.04 release. But are you wondering what sort of improvements it brings? Well, OMG Ubuntu's got you covered. In this post, he's going to run down some of the features. So a fair bit of supercharged new search features in the Nautilus file manager to streamlining in the settings app support for remote login over RDP and some small yet approachable buffs to the way notifications behave. If this roundup leaves you itching to experience the associated benefits firsthand, the assorted benefits firsthand yourself on your own computer, rest assured you don't have long to wait until Ubuntu 24.04 LTS will have GNOME 46. So file manager improvements. GNOME 46 makes some big improvements in the file manager. Most of us still call it Nautilus. Its search capabilities are expanded. Its performance enhanced, and the overall user experience made more efficient. Net result, managing files is easier in GNOME 46. The search button at the top sidebar is now used for global search. Click this icon if you want to search for files or folders across the index locations, including any custom drives directories you have added through the settings search pane. Only want to search the current directory, click on the toolbar button next to the path bar, and use search in folder mode. It does just as it says. So that's pretty exciting. Then progress for active file transfers and file operations have been moved to the bottom of the sidebar in Nautilus, making it easier to monitor them at a glance. You can click on the area when it appears to see detailed progress, including transfer speeds, rate, estimated time remaining of active operations. So talking of file transfers, Nautilus now gives you a heads up if you are trying to copy or move a file over 4 gigabytes in size to a fat drive partition, which doesn't support files larger than that. Previously, the file manager would copy the 4 gigabytes and then fail, which is super frustrating. So other areas of improvement were the search field in Preferences panel to find settings faster, a single click on path bar to edit location manually, custom folder icon features, so easier to find and reset. Protected zip creation now gets you to confirm password. Setting to use detailed timestamps for file creation or recency. So they've expanded notifications. That's another exciting thing. I'm just going to go through these a little quicker. They've refined their settings. They have GNOME online accounts to connect to cloud services, which I think that's been around for a little while. You can use WebDAV as an account type for like Microsoft personal account types, which I think that's pretty cool. So apps have been updated. So they have a new calendar, maps, music, image viewer, the Loop or Lupe, I don't know, Epiphany web browser, then no extensions app, so not third-party desktop manager one, but a native one. Software displays verified badges when viewing apps on FlatPub, plus a whole lot more. So remote login using RDP, tap-to-click enabled by default for touchscreens, H.264 software encoding for screen recording, improved fractal scaling support for sharper fonts, experimental variable refresh rate support, memory optimizations, and the tracker GNOME system monitor ported to GTK4, not KDE4, GTK4. Disks have a new I/O resource graph and assorted Orca improvements. The minimized animation tweak has a far more natural effect, and Super Control 1 plus Super plus Control, and then 1 through 9 will launch the respective app in Dash. I don't know what that is. And then updated wallpapers and fallback avatars improved. So, I think that's pretty exciting. A new GNOME. I think it's worth checking out next month for maybe like when Ubuntu ships it out. What do you think, huh?
The most notable feature that people keep talking about is that you will be able to remote log into GNOME without an account being active as a requirement.
So like on the remote computer?
Yeah, you can remote log in without having to have an account being active for you to log into it.
So, but it'd have to have an account on the machine though.
That I don't know.
I would think.
I'm guessing you would have to have credentials.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah. No, that is cool, and I hope KDE gets that because that's a sweet feature right there. That's a little more. That's some Windowsy stuff. So here, I'm just looking at the chat here. So Sean says, hopefully. Oh, hold on. Clicked on the wrong one. So hopefully next GNOME brings a usable tray. They didn't talk about that, so I don't know about that. Jay Lee says, I'm not a fan of GNOME or GTK stack personally. I stay with Acute and KDE. I agree. So then Adam Grubb says, that's an interesting thing about Linux. A new desktop can release, but it's not generally available to most distros on release. So can you really say it's released? It depends on your version. Depends on what released means. What is right? What released is. Then I see you respond there, Eris. So same thing can be said about Windows. It was released at a certain day, but it doesn't mean everyone would upgrade or even have the hardware on day one. It's true. So, and then yep.
It's kind of like that. I don't know, like thinking proverb. I don't know if a tree falls and nobody is there to hear it, did it actually make a sound?
Yes. And yes. It did make a sound, I think.
But can sound exist without somebody hearing it, or with something being able to perceive it?
Well, it's going to vibrate, right? The vibrations are still going to be there, even if nothing's there to perceive it.
But it's only sound when it's actually received, right?
No.
No.
It's just vibrations. So there was a there was, I think, was it an earthquake or something that was so, I can't remember. Man, I can't remember what I was watching something on YouTube, of course, and it was such a loud bang that it actually circled the earth and could be heard multiple times. It was like it had to have been like a volcano, I think, blew up.
A big earthquake?
Yeah, I think it was volcano. I think specifically it was volcano that like it was an explosion with a volcano. Maybe it was an earthquake. Anyway, regardless. Now I can't remember what that was now, but it was something that was so loud that it actually wrapped around the Earth. Or if it's a flat Earth, I'm not sure how you'd work that one out, but I'm assuming it's a globe. Don, he gets it. He says, the other trees will hear. Yeah. So, good times. Is everybody here excited about the GNOME release? Or oh wait, so Chris is Mr. Mate, so he probably doesn't care. Terrence is on MX, so it's gonna be XFCE. Dr. Linux, I think he's also XFCE. Or Dr. Love.
Yeah. MX.
MX Linux.
Max.
Jinda is also MX. This is like the MX Linux Saloon.
I don't know. This is too advanced.
And then
I opened OpenSUSE here. See like a lot of, I guess, the installation. Well, I guess I should just keep pressing next, but like a error came up when I opened it. Wait, this is not. It says tumbleweed.
yep, that's my jam, dog. That's what I'm running right here.
Okay,
Problem free.
cool.
Always is, except for today.
Yeah. This is repositories and initialization, so I guess it still has to finish up.
Yeah, for what it's worth, I'm running Plasma 6, and I've
Wait, this is a preview.
I've
Go ahead.
I have it on multiple machines now, and I would say overall, I think I'm pretty happy. I think it's 6.0.2 is what I'm running right now, and aside from the Zoom Wayland, maybe it was the Pipewire or Wire Plumber. I don't know what happened where all of a sudden Zoom went crazy. Actually, the moment that it went crazy is when I made Eris a co-host. That's actually the point when it went crazy on me, and then everything just went off the rails after that. So don't know what's going on there.
I think the
I do
connection
like that.
between I think the connection between the two plasmas was too much. It blew up.
It was like don't cross the streams like in Ghostbusters unless you want to open a rip in space time or something
Exactly.
Yeah.
It looks like VLC. It looks like VLC media player. The thing.
like that. Probably is.
This thing. This again for this cover. It says it reminds me of VLC. It's cool.
Right. Well, it looks like man, I guess if you're Apple, it's not a good week. So the U.S. sues Apple, alleging it's illegally monopolizing the smartphone market. Has anybody heard this one? Is anybody here using an iDevice? Someone here using an iDevice?
Android.
Android? No. Yeah, I'm Android.
Android.
So I think probably if Adam was on here, he'd probably be saying I have an iDevice, something like that. So U.S. Department of Justice sued Apple today, alleging that the company violated antitrust laws by restricting rivals' access to iPhone features and monopolizing the smartphone market. The lawsuit in U.S. District Court in the U.S. District Court for the District of New Jersey alleged that Apple suppresses innovation through web of contractual restrictions that it selectively enforces through a control of app distribution and its app review process, as well as by denying access to key points of connection between apps and the iPhone operating system called Application Programming Interface, or APIs. Apple can enforce these restrictions due to its position as an intermediary between product creators, such as developers, on one hand, and users on the other. The DOJ is seeking an order determining that Apple is allegedly monopolizing the smartphone market in the U.S. The agency also wants to request an order to block Apple from continuing its allegedly anti-competitive practice. So DOJ said in court order should at minimum prevent Apple from using its control of app distribution to undermine cross-platform technologies such as super apps and cloud streaming apps, prevent Apple from using private APIs to undermine cross-platform technologies like messaging, smartwatches, and digital wallets, and prevent Apple from using its terms and conditions of its contracts with developers, accessory makers, consumers, or other to obtain, maintain, extend, or entrench a monopoly. The DOJ defined super apps as those that provide broad functioning to a single app. These apps that Apple allegedly is undermining can improve smartphone competition by providing a consistent user experience that can be ported across devices. In response provided to ours, Apple said that the lawsuit threatens who we are and the principles that set Apple products apart, that in fiercely competitive markets, if successful, it would hinder our ability to create a kind of technology people expect from Apple, where hardware, software, and services intersect. It would also set a dangerous precedent, empowering governments to take heavy hand in designing people's technology. We believe this lawsuit is wrong on its facts and the law, and we will vigorously defend against it. So, I know in a way I think I'm kind of on Apple's side on this one. I won't buy an Apple product, maybe ever again, but I think that, I don't know, me personally, if I had to choose between like trusting Apple or the government, golly, that's a hard one. I'd probably go with Apple over the government, honestly. I mean, I was going to say Apple isn't killing people, but they do have quite the labor camps in China, so there's that. Sorry, Apple. Unless you want to sponsor Linux Saloon, then I will change my tune on that, of course.
So one of the things that Linus from L2T was talking about in the WAN show
Uh-huh.
is that, and this is like for him like a key example of the way Apple said this lawsuit threatens who we are and principles that set Apple products apart from fiercely competitive markets. He's like, yeah, that's exactly what it is. He's like, the way you have Apple earbuds, and there's no way to actually update the firmware unless you have an iPhone. If you have an Android or any other phone that's not an Apple phone,
Yeah,
there's no
that
way
sounds
to
like
update.
absolutely.
You would have to go to the store to ask them to please update the firmware for you because there's no other way.
So, and actually, I'm okay with that. Like me
Brand
personally.
with that?
loyalty.
And the reason I'm okay with that is because it means that Apple's made a decision that their products are not for me. And I think that's okay. I think that they should be allowed to do that, personally. So I will not, to me, then earbuds are nothing more than, two rocks that I would kick or step on the sidewalk. It's just they're useless bits of plastic, basically.
Well, for a long time, the Apple computers were propped up by iOS because the only way you could develop for iOS is you needed a Mac computer. So you would have to buy one. So in that way, they extended their monopoly from one market to another one and propped up their computers. Now, there was other uses for the computers, of course. People use it for creating like videos and other things, but this was one use case that propped up the computers. And in the same way that the phones are the dominant phones, I guess, in the market, this extended to other things. Like they said here that because Apple is the dominant phones, they basically hinder other companies' ability to make cloud gaming possible because Apple doesn't allow that.
Yeah, and in a way, I'm okay with that. I think it's their hardware, it's their ecosystem. They should be able to do what they want. Really, just don't buy it. Vote with your dollars. That's what I think. So,
But is it possible to actually compete with them?
I think so.
And that's what it comes down to.
I think so. I think the problem with Android is it's kind of a mess, and I think Google is probably doing the best of anybody as far as, I think the Pixel is pretty great. It lacks some features that Motorola has, but outside of that, I think it's. I mean, I think really. No, I think that it's. Yeah, I understand what you're saying, and I don't. I understand. I also think that if some innovative tech individual wants to build a Hackintosh in a VM or whatever, I also think that that Apple should not be able to go after that person for doing that. In the same vein, I think that they have no right to interfere because it's available and out there to do. If someone wants to do that, and beat on their ecosystem a little bit, then they just need to harden their ecosystem. But I don't think that they should.
I was watching.
You muted yourself, Ali.
Apologies. Yeah. So I was watching this stream on YouTube about this hack happening or not. It was some type of gaming network. It's not on Steam, but it's I forget what it's running on. But
Epic.
basically, it allowed somebody to basically spam bots into like a gaming room, so they can have like 100 people fighting one individual and attacking them, and then having all these I guess entities spawn from.
Oh,
You
muted
muted
again.
yourself again.
Yeah, so basically they could spam bots as well as individual characters into the gaming room to attack one individual, and it was both potentially both server side and client side access authorization, and it was two-way, so it was really advanced potentially based from what the exploit was able to do for that I guess anomaly that occurred. It was crazy. It was interesting.
I didn't hear about that one.
I guess what it was on.
I guess I'm not really plugged in on the gaming.
Some like MMORPG. I forget which one it was.
Second Life.
No.
Is Second Life still around?
I don't know. I have no idea.
So one of the things that usually comes up with the iPhones and anti-competitiveness is the whole green bubble thing. Because if you're on an Android and you're trying to communicate with somebody who has an iPhone, there's a lack of compatibility sometimes in their messages, and you get the lowest common denominator. And this is technology that's not because, I mean, it's because Apple's whole system is proprietary and they do not allow you to connect to it.
I think isn't that going away? That they're actually going to be compatible now with the industry standard. They've changed their tune on that.
They said that they will bring RCS, which is what Google uses, but Google uses a like a different variant, it has modifications from the official RCS. So Apple said that they will work with the standard to make it better to their standards, whatever that means. But they have said that the green bubbles will stay with the RCS. You will not
be able to read them.
will not take away the green bubbles.
Oh,
Will it like show like if they read a message? I think that's the main thing.
And then the green bubbles has been said by the executives that it's one of the main driving points of keeping people within the ecosystem, because kids will not want to use an Android. They will not like to be stand out from their peer group, and that they acknowledge that this is the main reason why they will not have the ability to have iMessage and Android, because otherwise they will lose their competitive advantage. This is all things that have been leaked from previous lawsuits and emails that came out.
yeah, and again, I just kind of sort of think that's just okay, like let them do that. Do you think I'm wrong? I mean, you can tell me you think I'm wrong. I'm okay with that. You can say no.
I believe
wrong.
that. I mean, people think that the free market will police itself, and then everything will lead to a good place for the consumer. But I believe that most consumers do not have the complete knowledge that the free market visionary paradigm thinks people will have. Most people just make quick decisions decisions that they don't have full knowledge of. And if you leave a market without any restrictions, that it will lead towards monopoly and somebody being dominant. The way the way the stock market works is that there's a set of rules that keeps tries to keep a fair and even playing field, and this is why privileged information is not allowed. So I think for any free, I mean any ideal free market, there has to be rules so that there is a lot of competitiveness, and in the end, the consumer will have a better experience.
Yeah, I understand that, and I think I think you're large. I think you're right in that regard. But at the same time, I think I have to quote Princess Leia from Star Wars, and the tighter you squeeze, the more that slips between the fingers. And I think that's kind of what happens. I think when you look at like the longevity of certain, I don't know, either applications or systems or whatever, it's once it's released into the open source is actually when it really flourishes. So I think that Apple does a really good job of being shiny and whatever, but and they're probably going for like the low information consumer anyway, really. And so you're always going to have some that are going to pull away or break away. I mean, like right now, sure, the M series is pretty awesome, I guess, but it's still locked down and their hardware's crap. So, like generally, it's not repairable unless they change their tune on that. But I think the more they lock things down, the more they restrict it. I think ultimately that's a losing. It's a short-term gain, but I think it's a long-term ultimate loss. I don't think it's going to win for them long-term. I just don't. I don't. I think most people will see through that eventually. I mean, it just takes time because people are lazy and people don't want to see these things. But eventually they'll see it, and see that Apple is, basically a terrible company, and stop
You could
doing
say
business with them.
that they didn't
So-
see it that way because if you remember when phones came out, you could take out the battery. This wasn't like
Oh yeah,
a
exactly.
weird
The
feature.
touch phones.
And iPhone won out the battle on that. Everything's locked down,
Yep.
and you can't repair anything. Remember when phones used to have micro SD cards? Some still do, but most do not have that anymore.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
but I think that's a short-term thing. I think what you're looking at it from we're looking at it in the midst of where people are there because they're complacent and they're just going with whatever's there. But I think because there is something now like the Fairphone and the Framework laptop, I think that's in the Steam Deck also. I think those are all shifting away from that. How Apple has basically destroyed consumer electronics. So it's a shifting away from that, and I think that right now, most of the market is one way, but it's already shifting things where, because of Framework, Dell and HP have taken notice and they've at least given lip service to some of the repairability like machines that they've kind of talked about. You can't order any of the parts right now, but they've given lip service. So I don't know. I kind of think that, I mean, look at the whole software thing. I think there, at one time, Unix, Solaris, which is a Unix, I guess, they dominated the server market, and they tried very hard to crush Linux. And now Linux has won when it comes to the server market, not entirely. And I don't want Linux to win entirely. I think competition's good, but primarily things run on open source, and I just don't. And it took a long time, and there was a lot of effort to crush it for a long period of time. And I just kind of sort of think that Apple's just going to lose ultimately. I mean, they might be big right now, but that doesn't mean anything.
So I mean, in terms, well, I feel like if you ask the average person, like in terms of what phones they use, they would generally use those two types of phones, or they like use like cheaper product lines for the same model Androids. Well, I don't know. I don't really know. The average person in my age group is what I consider in terms of what I'm thinking about. But I would say like most people are just gonna use say Android, or I feel like even like when I think micro USB, I automatically think it's going to be a Windows type phone, or an Android based phone, or like a Windows type phone. Those are pretty much the same dominant models. I don't know if any other, like, there's like the Google phone as well.
Yeah,
I
Pixels.
don't know how I don't know in terms of how how expensive their user base is.
I'm not really like focused much on that, so I couldn't say intelligently on that at all. I guess my thing is, I think Adam brings up a good point. There has to be some rules, and I think Eris, you're saying that too. I just don't think. I just don't know that government has historically made good decisions on rules, and a lot of times when there's new regulations, it actually inhibits innovation. So I just don't know. I think I would err on the side of free market, because it just seems like a lot of times these rules are basically help out big business more than to help out the innovators. Like that's more or less what it comes down to. If you wanted to build a car right now, it'd be start up a company. Unless if you're Elon Musk, it's basically impossible. So
I will say one last thing. The way I see a free market is the way we have our whole recycling and this waste disposal system right now. There is no regulation that makes the companies absorb externality costs, such as the waste of their products. Like when you buy things from the grocery store, everything comes in plastic. Most of that plastic is never going to be recycled. And then the cost of that waste disposal is transferred to the consumer and ultimately to the government to get rid of all this plastic. And this is an externality cost that they do not absorb. There is no regulation that says your product has to have a way of being disposed easily and safely and in an environmental way. So I think that these types of externalities has to be accounted for and has to be regulated. What I'm not advocating, of course, is complete control. That's not what I'm saying. Just to clarify.
yeah, I think the whole plastic thing, that's a mess. I mean, for a while there, we were shipping our plastic, and it just ended up there's like a plastic island somewhere floating in the Pacific somewhere, I guess. Like an island.
Besides the Texas,
Yeah.
but thankfully, some I think a group of people, volunteers, they were able to cut that down. I don't know what size, but it was the size of Texas or something
Yeah,
like that.
and that's ridiculous. So, I think there is a place for. I mean, we have to be good stewards of the earth. I don't know. I'm not. I very much. I mean, like. I'm pretty crazy about minimizing my garbage, so that's why I have chickens, because they eat all my food waste essentially, and then I compost anything else for the garden and everything. And I'm one of those hippy dippy crunchy types. So I like, nature. One of those types, and I think there's definitely I've seen some studies, some work being done on actually being able to take plastics and basically convert them back into a kind of oil that can be reutilized. And I don't know how practical that is. I don't know anything,
They
the
found
feasibility
some
of it.
like they found some like organism that's able to actually degrade plastics,
Right.
and turn it back into
It's organic matter, yeah. And again, those kind of make me a little bit nervous too, because what else will they eat? Now we have like flesh-eating bacteria out there. There's been lots of cases. I don't know if you heard of those.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I don't know about all that. But if we can somehow, in an anaerobic state, turn plastics back into an oil that we can reprocess and whatever, and make and reutilize those for whatever we need, that would be great. I think that less restrictions probably on innovation and experimentation is probably a good thing. I don't know about biology.
my mind goes. I don't know why my mind went to this. I was watching this video where this guy made a Iron Man mask that is like able to like regenerate its shape. The plastic basically reconfigures itself after it's been damaged, like because of different I guess properties of the actual jelly itself that creates that plastic. It's pretty cool. It's a pretty cool watch. My mind went when you said that. Yeah. I know.
Yeah, I mean, there's gonna be tons of problems. I mean, if you go back in time, we've always used technology to solve our problems. So as long as we can innovate and we can have the freedom to innovate and to explore and make the right kind of regulations, not that I've seen much of that, but if we can, then I think problems will be solved. At one time, they were in the turn of the 20th century, there was big concern that there's gonna be so much poop in the streets, and having to clean it up and do something with it, it was just gonna be totally unmanageable, and the cities are gonna fill up with manure because of the horses. Then the automobile, essentially became a mainstay, and so that's no longer an issue. Now we have smog. We have a whole new issue. So now we're going to electric car, and now we have rare minerals that are hard to come by. So we're destroying the environment there too. But then we got like one of these companies that are innovating, that are doing a lot of research and whatever for Tesla. They're developing a sodium-based battery that apparently is a lot of early signs of very positive things there. So if they can be successful with sodium-based battery instead of lithium, a lot of those rare earth materials are going to go away because of innovation and technology. Then we're going to have more sustainable energy. So I think it's possible, as long as we're allowed to innovate and as long as we can explore and do things, and without all the crippling regulations. But we got to have some guardrails. I just don't know.
I agree. I feel like with regard to this battery issue, well, I know this is a side tangent, but the whole issue with some of those batteries just not exploding but causing fires.
Mm-hmm.
But there is the whole issue with the batteries in terms of when they were the Tesla vehicles, when there was it takes a long time to charge them, like to recharge them. And especially when it's like in a really cold environment, like they were saying, like when there was like snowstorms in like Chicago, a lot of those vehicles that had stayed on the lots were giving trouble just to actually start up. So basically, the batteries got defunct because of the long sedentary time for those vehicles. So that there's like a value add depending on just the customer usage alone, like the frequency, but just in terms of the value add can be assessed different, and those trade-offs can be determined differently, just depending on what exactly the advantage that client or person entity trying to achieve. That's what it really is based on.
Yeah, and
so batteries don't work very well in the winter, so they need like a heater to warm them up.
Right.
And this is one thing that people who have EVs and
but the
they
comparison
know how to do it. They would turn on the heater ahead of time so that by the time you get to the supercharger, your car is ready to get more energy that way. Because if you don't have the heater on beforehand and get the right temperature, then the way that the batteries are able to take in energy is very inefficient, and it's going to take much longer.
Yeah, definitely.
I have a plug-in hybrid, and the battery heater went out in that, so it could still function because it was a hybrid. And it just didn't. I lost the benefits of the battery essentially. So that was irritating until the heater came in. But because of all the automotive strike and everything else, and I think I actually want to bring Anna does bring a good point here. So the power grid is certainly not ready for electric cars. That's not even close. So, electric cars are not going to fix our problems. They're going to exacerbate our grid problems if that's not fixed first. So, the different ways of fixing it. I don't know. I think that it's probably a multi-pronged approach. Definitely nuclear. Big fan of nuclear. That needs to be.
How about solar?
Well, solar is really. I mean, basically. I got 10 kilowatts of solar power here, but I know they're made. I know they're made with coal power. So I got cold power solar panels, but I didn't buy them for environmental reasons. I bought them for self-sufficiency reasons, which secondarily does have some benefits. But I mean, I think the return for the amount
Return on investment.
return on investment's like 10 years, but the return on to offset the not that I think carbon emissions I think is stupid.
Carbon footprint.
Yeah, the carbon footprint, which is again that's also low information. People say that too, but to offset that from the coal and natural gas and everything else that they use to make that, I think it's pretty much its lifetime or something like that. But people don't understand, like, you can't, if you got rid of all carbon emissions, then all the plants would die. So you can't do that either. That's nonsensical. So people understand it's a circle thing. Like, they don't understand how the environment works. So, it's not very, we need there's better metrics in carbon footprint. I would look at other things, but yeah. So I'm not terribly concerned about carbon footprint.
Kilowatt hour and the price reduction, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I like the fact that I'm not spending as much electricity now because I have a plug-in hybrid, so it offsets some of that. It's probably break even, a little bit better than break even, I think. But
the maintenance is pretty high, to have upkeep for that solar panels, right?
Well, you gotta keep them clean.
The initial cost when installed, yeah.
You gotta keep them clean. And then I already had one panel fail, and it's only 2 years old, so I'm working on the warranty claim on that. So there's that.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so that's fun. And then other issues too that I'm not a big fan of.
Did you know there was a proposal to solve global warming, to have a man-made like layer of like I don't know, like like a smoke or something covering a part of the atmosphere to keep the sun away.
Yeah,
Did you hear about that?
I remember I heard about that, but I think I think the people who are screaming global warming they're the same people who are screaming ice age in the 70s or whatever it was, 60s and 70s, that we're going to send ourselves to an ice age. And so I think I don't know. I don't really buy it. I mean, Greta Thunberg and was in 2018 was saying by year 2022 the Earth would be uninhabitable. We're going to die. So I don't know. I don't think any of their models are accurate. I'm not like, I think we should take care of the environment, but I don't think any of those models are accurate. I think there's too many inaccuracies there. So, and I think honestly the reason I don't really think that people are serious about the global warming thing is if they were, they'd be pushing nuclear, but instead they're pushing our industry in developing nations, and so but they produce lots of carbon emissions, and no one screams about that. So I don't know. I don't buy it. I think it's a big farce at this point, but just based on the decisions being made by the people in power. So otherwise they'd push for nuclear, and they don't. So.
Well, the problem with nuclear is the waste, right? That's why people don't like nuclear.
Oh, it's very little waste.
There is absolutely no plan to what to do with the waste. The way it works now, you just keep the waste close to the power plant.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, what they could do, and they're not doing it, is they can re-enrich the uranium, and then they can use it again. And so they're not doing that process. So is
that economically feasible, or is that very?
Yeah. So if you're familiar with the term of breeder reactors, so there are some kinds of nuclear reactors that actually will re-enrich themselves automatically, and then and so it actually the amount of refueling is actually much less. So I don't fully know all this stuff, but yeah, there's other there's other ways of handling that. And the problem is it's not being explored effectively, and I think it needs to be explored. I mean, I think nuclear can be very evil too, obviously, because we've seen what it can do. but I think there's a positive to utilizing the power effectively. So, yes.
We never did get our nuclear power card.
Nope. And then Sean says we just need a bunch of Mr. Fusions, and I totally agree. I think I'm hoping that there's more work being done on fusion reactors as well, but I guess we'll see on that. All right. Well, it is that time. So next week we are going to do an application appetizer of local send. But if you want to bring in some other like sending file type applications, like if there's something else that's similar to local send that maybe you use, I think you can go ahead and contribute that as well. So that'd be pretty cool if you did that. So local send for next week. And then yes, CCJ, build more nuclear power plants, just don't build them on fault lines. Good idea. And also proper shutdown in case something does happen. If you have any suggestions for topics or distributions we should try, applications, poll ideas, send them to suggestions@linuxsaloon.com. It's been pretty quiet there. I think the last email I got was from Chris. But anyway, so you can send emails. I like emails. They're great. We got lots of other topics here that we just didn't get to, but there's always next week. Well,
All right.
and time for last call. Excuse me. If anything else I want to say, Allie, how many distributions have you tried today? As we've been talking,
I did like two, just the two. The open
okay.
and the what is it called?
MX Linux.
MX.
Yep.
MX. Yeah.
Awesome. So we got to keep this rolling here. We'll be like, maybe next week we can try another two for you to play around with. Maybe we can give us some feedback maybe during the week. I don't know. Whatever you feel like doing. But excellent. Steve was in the chat. Steve's very own. He does a live stream Sunday mornings. He also did one, I think, this week sometime. I saw it pop in after it was done. But tomorrow morning, 8:30 a.m. Central. If you want to check that out. One of my favorite podcasts out there is called Linux User Space, or you can go to linuxuserspace.show. They had God, I just listened to the last episode and I can't remember what it was now. But it was very good, and I got a goldfish memory, and so I apologize for that. But check it out. I really enjoy the discussions. Oh, you know what? There was something said on there that was very offensive, I will say. There was this, they said that oatmeal raisin cookies are better than chocolate chip on there, and I was extremely offended by that, because how can you say oatmeal raisin is better than chocolate chip? Anyway.
Exactly.
So listen to the latest Linux User Space.
Close competition.
No. If I bite into a cookie and I think it's chocolate chip and I'm chewing on a raisin, I could not be more angry. So I think if you could all flood the Linux User Space show contact and tell them they're wrong about the oatmeal cookie bit, that would be great.
Tell them Nate sent me.
You tell me, tell them Nate sent you. Cubicle Nate. So yes, I'm on a podcast called Linux Out Loud. We actually talked about so am I the jerk? It's actually we cleaned it up a little bit. Am I the jerk when it comes to like IT tech support? And so it was a fun episode to record.
Nothing works.
So Matt was there. He was back. He's finally not working 30 hours a day. So it was great. I have a website called cubiclenate.com. I've actually been getting caught up on a bunch of articles and things. So I just released a couple of other things on there. One is not very popular, but I'll tell you anyways. I dug into how to use something called QR encode. So if you want to make your own QR codes with however you want to embed information in there, everything from sending emails by scanning it to SMS messages, events, so forth, you can do that. I just kind of dug into how to actually do that quite well.
Cool.
I needed it for a work. Something at work prompted this, and so I'm digging into that. Actually, I'm gonna do some experimentation now this week, because you can set different error levels too. So you can actually damage based on how much error correction you want in there. You can actually have a certain amount of damage done to the obfuscations of the QR code, and it'll still function. And I think I need to experiment with that. By the way, just for managing things at work. Anyway, so you can check that out if you want to. cubiclenate.com. I write things. Linux Saloon is part of the Tux Digital Network, so check out more great shows at tuxdigital.com. I want to thank you all for your support, however you do it, being a part of the conversation, both the Zoom meeting, the YouTube stream, or everyone involved for watching the show after the fact. And, if you think that I am wrong about anything, please send me an email or say so. I'm okay with being wrong, or, have a conversation. And I want to thank you, everyone involved in making the Linux open source tools possible for us to not only have this conversation, but also to have fun and enjoy our technology. Linux truly puts personal back into personal computer. Thank you for stopping by. Be sure to tip your developers, and please remember to Linux responsibly. Until next time.